come, Ray. The one constant through all the years, Ray, has been baseball.
Little roller up along first. Behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win. Now the 2-1. Line drive to Minnesota. Just as the score the tying run. Green to the plate. And he is saved. Saved at the plate. The Braves go to the World Series.
Have reserved seats somewhere along one of the baselines that sat when they were children and cheered their heroes.
Gibson swings and a fly ball to deep right field. This is going to be a home run. Unbelievable!
A 3-run home run for Bucky Dent. The Yankees now lead by a score of 3-2.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mazeroski has hit a 1-0 pitch over the left field fence at Forbes Field to win the 1960 World Series.
They'll arrive at your door as innocent as children, longing for the past.
The Pope arrived at Yankee Stadium. As one enthusiastic announcer put it, he is standing on second base.
Reggie Jackson. Long drive right field. It is goodbye. Big World Series.
The Blue Jays are World Series champions as Joe Carter hits a 3-run home run.
Brackett throws. There's a long drive. It's going to be, I believe, the Giants from the pennant. The Giants from the pennant. The Giants from the pennant.
The 0-1 pitch. A liner off Nagy's glove into center field. The Florida Marlins have won the World Series.
The memories will be so thick that I can brush them away from their faces.
The 1-0 delivery to Fisk. He swings, long drive, left field. If it stays fair, it's gone. Home run. The Red Sox win. And the series is...
Lolich fires. Ball is hit high in the air. This should be the series. Freehand waving everybody away in foul territory. Detroit wins.
Here's the pitch to Willie. Here's a liner straight to Richardson. The ball game is over and the World Series is over. Willie McCovey hit it like a bullet. A line drive right
Baseball
to Richardson.
to mark the time.
The Oakland A's take. I'll tell you what, we're having an
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Candlestick Park for Game 3 of the 1989 World Series.
It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again.
Frank Robinson, the right-hand batter.
Long drive to left field. Leva. Gets it back.
Base hit loaded, 1 out. Pena in a chance. The Twins are going to win the World Series. The Twins have won it.
Ozzie with 1 out. Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. It's a home run. And the Willie Mays just brought this crowd to its feet with a catch, which must have been an optical illusion to a lot of people.
This field, this game, is a part of our past, Ray. It reminds us of all that once was good, and it could be again.
Broadcasted live.
Hey! Who wants to have some fun?
There are balls coming from all over the place. Left field, center field, right field. See, this is the kind of thing, quite honestly, right now, that makes you want to see the Chicago Cubs team lose.
Now, you just saying you want to have fun, or do you really want to have fun?
It'll be fun.
Will the next person that sees anybody throw anything onto this field, point them out, and get them out of here. You don't live in Cleveland. You live in Cincinnati.
You talking to me? You talking to me?
That is the farthest thing in the universe from the truth.
Hello, everyone, live. It's the Dan Scott Show. And right there is your host, Dan Scott.
All right, good morning once again, everybody, and welcome to the Thursday edition of the program. I am indeed your host, Dan Scott. Good to have you with us on a very, very cold, frozen Thursday morning here in the upstate of South Carolina for the second straight day, as you can see, operating from the not yet completely assembled home studio here at the Scott Family Ranch, and not in the booth over at Furman because, quite honestly, with the refreeze of everything last night, car was solid ice this morning. The driveway, which is elevated, live on a little hill, solid ice this morning. The road that we live on, solid ice this morning. You're beginning to get a theme here. So again, as I said yesterday, one of the best things about being a bad weather driver, a good bad weather driver, one of the things that makes you a good bad weather driver is knowing when not to drive. So we're here again, and that means that our plans have been altered slightly because Connor Shaw was going to be our in-studio guest today. And because of the fact that campus does not open until 11 o'clock officially, and the fact that I'm here instead of over there, we will have to postpone that until sometime in the early part of next week, if all goes according to plan. But we've got a pretty good backup for you today, and I hesitate to even call him a backup because he is a regular and he brings a perspective that very few people, not only in the sports world have, but the world in general have, and that is Billy Davis, the former U.S. Secret Service agent, former Clemson 2 sports star, who is joining us at 10:25 to give us his unique perspective on sports and life and many other things. Also at 10:45, the play-by-play voice of East Tennessee State, Jay Sandos, will be joining us. Why? Well, because there's Furman basketball tonight at Timmons Arena, and actually because of the weather yesterday, it's now a doubleheader at Timmons. The women will play ETSU at 5 p.m., and the men will follow up at 7:30. I'll be on the call on both of those games on ESPN3 with Bryant Lambert, and the men's game, of course, will also be simulcast on Fox Sports 1440. So we've got a pretty good show lined up for you today. If we have time, maybe we'll also talk a little bit of NFL and what could be a bit of an issue for the New England Patriots. But so that's the show lineup. We'll try very, very hard to get Connor Shaw rescheduled for the early portion of next week. And by the time we get through today and then the temperatures dropping again tonight, have you seen the weather forecast? I mean, it's really no wonder that people get sick and stay sick this time of year. We're going from, in a lot of places, single digits, lower teens overnight, last night, cold today. We'll finally get up to about 45 degrees today. In a couple of days, the high is going to be in the low to mid 60s. I mean, it's going to be baseball weather here in the South. So at least we've got that to look forward to. Anyway, so that's what today's show looks like. I hope that you have taken all the necessary precautions and stayed home if you did not have to go out, because, you look around, you watch the news, you see the wrecks, you see the issues that the weather has caused. And I'll just say this, echo what we see and hear on the news many times this time of year when we have temperatures like we're having overnight now, and I'm sure we're going to get more of it heading towards the end of this month and into February. I mean, let's face it, we know what it's like through spring, through the month of March. It's just unpredictable sometimes. Keep a watch on your elderly neighbors, and remember those who don't have a home. And if there's something you can do for someone, whether it's extra blankets, whether it's maybe something hot to drink, just some small little something that could make a big difference in somebody. But check on your elderly neighbors and make sure that they are okay this time of year. and I got a little bit of a personal reason for that, of course. If you were with us last week at this time, we told you about the untimely death of my uncle, and he was trying to get his house heated apparently, and somehow, some way, there was some kind of explosion that cost him his life. So just he was 71 years old. So just keep the elderly in mind. Take a moment to maybe drop in, see if they need anything, make sure everything's okay as far as the heat in their house, and just be a good neighbor. Be a good neighbor to someone. Our show each and every day is brought to you first and foremost by our friends at the Atlanta Bread Company. They are located in Cherrydale Plaza, right down the road from campus. And again, boy, these type of days when it's cold and you can go in there and you can get hot soup, a hot bowl of chili like I had for lunch the other day. You can get hot sandwiches and paninis, your fill of hot beverages. Just really warms the soul. It's a great place to be year-round, but it seems to be even more popular this time of year. Find out why. Also check out the incredible variety of baked goodies that they have there. The Atlanta Bread Company. When you go visit them, please tell them that you heard about them here on the show, and thank them for what they've done to help get this show up and running and stay sustainable over the last year. That's the Atlanta Bread Company, Cherrydale Plaza in Greenville. All right, we'll take a break and come back and get into some of the news of the day right after this. This is the Dan Scott Show, live from the not yet completed home studio, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Hey Furman fans, it's baseball season. Here at Ingalls, we know that as you root for the home team, sometimes you want more than just peanuts and Cracker Jack. And while we do deliver on your favorite ballpark classics, we're proud to offer a packed lineup of everything you need to make your next meal a home run. Ingalls, a proud sponsor of Furman Baseball and the official grocery store of Furman Athletics. Go Dins!
The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point offers a dining experience that will have you coming back for more time and time again. Everything is freshly made on site, including the different varieties of bread and all the baked goodies. And the menu, Atlanta Bread Company offers a wide variety from hot soups and chili to hot and cold sandwiches and paninis. Even breakfast selections topped off with your choice of piping hot coffees. Come see for yourself. You'll love it. The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point, proud sponsors of the Furman Paladins and the Dan Scott Show.
Looking for a good lunch spot in the Travelers Rest area? The Cafe at Williams Hardware is your place. Williams Hardware has food for the whole family, from the famous Reuben to the barbecue chicken quesadilla and their daily lunch specials, which includes the award-winning BLT unpimento cheese with pepper jelly, served Tuesday to Thursday. Williams Hardware also serves breakfast on Saturdays from 8 to 11, perfect before Furman home game. And don't forget their gift shop, which offers items for anyone on your list. Go see your friends at the Cafe at Williams Hardware, 13 South Main Street in downtown TR. Full menu and operating hours at thecafeatwilliamshardware.com.
So you've got a busted phone or tablet screen. Time to get a new device? Nope. Time to give it CPR. CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale can repair almost any phone or tablet screen on the market and usually can do it same day. In fact, if you have an iPhone, the fix usually takes less than an hour. CPO Cell Phone Repair also can fix computers and gaming systems, both screens and hard drives. And they sell refurbished devices and new accessories. Stop by and see the new owner, Janet Culver, today, and check them out on Facebook. That's CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale, 864-282-9097. Give it CPR today. All right, welcome back to the show. It is the Thursday edition. We'll be back in studio, if everything goes well, tomorrow, back on campus at Furman. And Brett Harker will be with us, the Furman baseball coach, as practice is about to get underway, or I guess has gotten underway now for the upcoming baseball season, and we are very much looking forward to first pitch at Latham Stadium coming up in the middle of February. I want to say hello to Casey Paris and the folks watching from the Liberty Fire Department this morning. among others. All of you who've tuned in, thank you for doing so. Take a moment and share the video, whether you're watching on Facebook Live, share it on your timeline. If you're watching on Twitter via Periscope, retweet it right now and help us grow this audience. Speaking of Liberty, I got to tell you a quick story. In the days leading up to Christmas, for about a week or so, every day I was bringing the story of my buddy Joel Aiken and his family to you. A fundraising effort had been set up for them because his wife Jillian had come down with some kind of heart issue and had been unable to work. In fact, until Monday, when she went back to work, she'd been off work for 3.5 weeks. Joel's in a wheelchair, and she was the breadwinner for the family. And they were going through, and still are going through, all kinds of financial problems because of the fact that she was not working, and can still very much use your help. There's no question about that. And if you were watching the show earlier this week on Tuesday, Joel's son Elijah was actually in studio with us over at campus and was job shadowing. And we had a good 3 hours with him to basically encourage him to follow his first love, which is mechanical engineering. We have a saying in this business: where else can you have this much fun for no money? And I only jest a little bit, but enjoyed the time with him. Anyway, I tell you all that to tell you this. I had been doing the fundraising pitch for Joel, trying to help them out as much as I can, bring awareness of their situation. And I got to be real honest with you. I was extremely discouraged because in the entire time that we were doing it in a week, the number on the You Caring site, the donation number only went up like $125, something like that, maybe $150. And it was really discouraging. And again, you have to remember the old days of the old radio show. It had gotten to the point where all I had to do was mention something on the air and the listeners took it and ran with it, whether it was Christmas, whether it was something that popped up other times of the year, whether it was our Thanksgiving turkey fry and donating canned goods and money for the local food bank. Whatever it was, they came through in a big way. And I still don't know that I'll ever be part of anything that topped putting a homeless family into a house, and how quickly that came together, and completely furnishing the house and getting all utilities turned on with $500 credits, and buying Christmas for the lady's children, and still having about $1,200 left over for her to use for shopping or for whatever she needed to get done. I don't know that I'll ever be part of anything like that again. Maybe God will bless, and I hope He does. But, that all came together in about a week. So that's kind of what I got accustomed to. Well, we have a much narrower audience, even though really the internet is a much wider platform. Right now, it's a much more narrow audience because of a lot of what we're doing is Furman focused, and it doesn't carry the broad interest that being on the Clemson station did for all those many years. But still, I expected a little more than maybe $150, $125. So I was really, really discouraged. Well, Monday night, coming back from the coach's show, the Bob Ritchie show, I had the opportunity to talk to Joel. And he and I talked for about 40 minutes on the phone. And I was relaying to him, how discouraged I was and upset that I was that in the course of a week we couldn't do more for him than add $125 or $150 to the total on the You Caring page. And he told me, he said, "You have no idea." He said there were people who heard that did not donate to the You Caring page, but donated to Joel and Jill personally. Just took them money based on what they heard us talking about during that week. And he said that was probably another $500 or $600. So that made me feel a little bit better to know that people were listening and responding. They just do it in a tangible way, or didn't do it in a tangible way where we could see it, the number pop up on the screen. But that's the way God works, and not the way Dan Scott perhaps works. But I just want to say to whoever it was, multiple people I'm sure that made those donations, thank you very much for doing so. Thank you for helping out, and remember them and remember others. We tend to get in a very charitable mood over the holiday season between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And sometimes we tend to forget that people need help year-round. So just kind of keep that in mind, whether it's helping out with Joel, whether it's some other cause that's out there, a local food bank, a local homeless shelter, a local soup kitchen. There are a lot of ways that you can impact somebody's life, and it needs to be done year-round. So just kind of keep that in mind. But I did want to take a moment to say thank you to those anonymous folks who heard our pitch during that week leading up to Christmas and went ahead and made donations directly to Joel and his wife. That made me feel a whole lot better about things, because I was, and you know, maybe it was a selfish reaction, maybe it was a bit of pride, thinking, you know, this is kind of my thing, and those are the results that we saw on screen that were not real good. And maybe that's just another way of God telling me, hey, this ain't about you, it's about the bigger picture. So whoever it was, and you know who you are, multiple people, thank you for stepping up and helping make those contributions and helping out Joel and his family. All right, let's take a look at some news and notes going on today. Where we want to start? Let's start with some college basketball scores from last night. It was a busy night in the top 25. Folks, remember when Georgetown was relevant? Well, they just got beaten up by Villanova last night, 88-56 at Georgetown. Villanova, number one in the country, is now 17-1 on the season. Number 7, Wichita State, upset at home by SMU, 83-78. It was number 17, Auburn, falling at Alabama, 76-71. Texas Tech, number 8 in the country, loses at Texas, 67-58. Number 19, Seton Hall, upset at Creighton, 80-63. Starting to see a pattern develop here. Number 11, Xavier held serve, beat St. John's 88-82. Number 14, Arizona knocked off Cal 79-58. And number 24, TCU beat up on Iowa State 96-73. Let's see, 3 more. 22nd ranked Ohio State 71-65 at Northwestern. Number 21, Tennessee falls at Missouri 59-55. And number 16, Arizona State, a loser at Stanford, 86-77. So had a number of teams ranked inside the top 25 that lost last night, and most of them on the road. So you'll see some shuffling in the polls when they come out again on Monday. Of course, still have games to be played this weekend, but that's your scoreboard recap from last night. The other big piece of news that may have some impact on the NFL playoffs, and specifically the AFC Championship game, is a report coming out of New England that Tom Brady jammed his hand at the Patriots practice. He missed the media session yesterday, was with their training crew and their medical staff. Apparently, according to the story, a teammate accidentally ran into his throwing hand, and obviously that would be a big concern if it's going to limit what he's able to do throwing the football. And you know, we're talking about a 40-year-old guy who still is probably going to be the league MVP this year.
Right? Would the Vikings be
So that's the biggest news coming out of the week leading up to the championship games. Jacksonville getting ready to head into New England to try and pull off an improbable postseason and make it to the Super Bowl for the first time ever. And they may be going up against Tom Brady, who is less than 100%. We'll wait and see if that's the case or not. X-rays, according to the folks covering the team, say there was no structural damage, but that still doesn't mean that maybe there couldn't be some swelling and could affect his grip on the football. We will find out on Sunday. All right, so that's a little bit of an update from there. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, Billy Davis will be on the phone with us, and we'll spend some time with the retired U.S. Secret Service agent and the former Clemson standout. All that and more as the Dan Scott Show returns right after this. Don't go away.
Stuck in a state of falling behind? Struggling to keep up with your kids, finances, insurance? Then let State Farm agent Steve Borkland in Traveler's Rest help you simplify and get to a better state. Because with Steve handling your auto, home, and life insurance, you'll have more time for everything else. More money, too, because adding State Farm policies could mean earning discounts worth up to 40%. That's money Steve can help you put towards a college savings plan. Call State Farm agent Steve Borkland today and get to a better state with State Farm.
Let me tell you something, Cowboy. This rookie can really bring the heat.
He's smoky and spicy with a Chipotle style all his own.
It's a new Montgomery Inn Chipotle barbecue sauce. Make it a part of your home team.
Available now at your neighborhood grocer or online at CincyFavorites.com.
The madness begins here. Make sure you're at the U.S. Cellular Center in Asheville, North Carolina, March 1st through 5th for the 2018 SoCon Basketball Championships presented by General Shale. Watch your favorite SoCon teams compete for a championship and a berth in the NCAA tournament and take part in exciting events like the Downtown Dribble and the Ingles Jam Fest. Book your travel and tickets by logging on to SoConHoops.com or by contacting the U.S. Cellular Center box office. The madness begins in Asheville. Get your tickets today.
Looking for a good lunch spot in the Traveler's Rest area? The Cafe at Williams Hardware is your place. Williams Hardware has food for the whole family, from the famous Reuben to the barbecue chicken quesadilla and their daily lunch specials, which includes the award-winning BLT unpimento cheese with pepper jelly, served Tuesday to Thursday. Williams Hardware also serves breakfast on Saturdays from 8 to 11, perfect before Furman home game. And don't forget the gift shop, which offers items for anyone on your list. Go see your friends at the Cafe at Williams Hardware, 13 South Main Street in downtown TR. Full menu and operating hours at the Cafe at WilliamsHardware.com.
Say you've got a busted phone or tablet screen. Time to get a new device? Nope. Time to give it CPR. CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale can repair almost any phone or tablet screen on the market and usually can do it same day. In fact, if you have an iPhone, the fix usually takes less than an hour. CPO Cell Phone Repair also can fix computers and gaming systems, both screens and hard drives. And they sell refurbished devices and new accessories. Stop by and see the new owner, Janet Culver, today and check them out on Facebook. That's CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale, 864-282-9097. Give it CPR today. All right, welcome back to the show. Dan Scott here with you in the not quite completed home studio. If you were with us yesterday, I told you this. You can see the back of this television, this HD TV here. Eventually, that's going to be mounted on the wall over my right shoulder, which will be on the left side of your screen, kind of where it is now. And we'll be able to do a lot of fun stuff with graphics and who knows, maybe FaceTime in some guests so you can actually see who we're talking to. In some cases, that would be wise. In others, I'm not so sure. This next guy will probably let him decide exactly how wise that would be. But Billy Davis is the former U.S. Secret Service agent, now retired, former Clemson two-sport star, and regular contributor to the program. Billy, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Dan. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, I'd love to be up on your screen, but as the old saying goes, I'd probably crack it or something like that. So it'd probably be best if I just stayed off and kept my my inner cloaking device on, as it were.
I don't know. Maybe when we get it all said and done, we'll take the chance and see if we can pull it off. How you been? Dominican Republic earlier this week, huh?
Yeah, Operation Christmas Child down there in the DR. We're in Puerto Plata with a bunch of young folks that were really happy to see us, and that was a great trip. Got to spread the gospel down there in the Dominican Republic with a bunch of little ones, and as you know, Jesus loves the little ones, so it was nice to be down there with those children and their extended family, and we got to spread some boxes down there, and it was a good time was had by all. So, and it was a lot warmer in Puerto Plata than it was up here in Virginia. We're in the upstate of South Carolina, that's for sure.
I love the picture you sent me of the new little friend that you made. She was hanging on to that big American for dear life, wasn't she?
Yeah, it was great. She was just a tiny little thing, barely old enough to stand up, but she was there. What I found out later was her grandmother, and she wanted to see the clowns out in front of the children. They were putting on a little skit, and so I picked her up, and she watched. She looked at me and then watched the skit for 3 or 4 minutes, and then just put her head on my shoulder and fell fast asleep. It was one of those cute little moments that you have that there's not enough money in the world to pay to get something like that. So it was a really nice moment. Yeah.
And by wanting to see the clowns, she was not referring to you. She was actually
there were
actual clowns there.
I think she figured that as she looked at me that I was probably one of them, and then that's all she needed to see, so that she fell asleep.
Yeah, my wife went on a mission trip to the Dominican back in 2007, and really came away changed. I mean, she really did. She had her heartstrings tugged on for the week that they were down there. So
yeah, super nice people down there. Mm-hmm. Really nice folks. So
hey, so, the big news out of your alma mater this week has been that the entire defensive line is going to return intact, when many people thought that most, if not all of them, were going to be heading off to the NFL and greater immediate riches for next season. It has to kind of as I talked with Dave Glenn, our ACC guy, yesterday, it sent shockwaves not just through the ACC but through all of college football that these guys would all come back. And it really brings to mind and into focus the varying ways that these decisions these players have can be looked at, because most of the time, Billy, the smart money is on jumping for the money, is on leaving early. We saw, been other players leave that you kind of shake your head and wonder a little bit about. Deion Kane, Ray McLeod. There's varying talk about how they're going to be ranked when the NFL draft comes around. But there was very little question about these defensive linemen, Christian Wilkins and all of that group, and yet they decide to come back. What was your take on that, first of all?
Well, I think you're spot on with Ray and Deion. I don't know their backgrounds, and I don't pretend to know their backgrounds. I know their abilities from what I have witnessed over the past 3 seasons, and I certainly believe that they could have easily come back and probably gotten bigger and stronger, and up their draft stock with another great year of either Kelly Bryant or Hunter Johnson or Trevor Lawrence, or pick your Clemson quarterback throwing to him. But I don't know what kind of guidance they got at home or what Coach Sweeney had told them, but I think a lot of times guys already have their mind made up that they're going to go and make money in the NFL, and I'm not really sure that's all that wise of a decision. You only get to be in college, especially at a place like Clemson, once in your life. And people always talk about the money and the risk of getting injured. Well, if you wouldn't play football if you were worried about getting injured in the first place. So I don't really understand why those 2 young men decided to go, and the fact that they maybe thought they couldn't do anything more at Clemson. I certainly believe both of them could. I don't believe they even came close to reaching their potential. as collegiate football players, but I'm sure we shall see, because there have been a lot of guys that were standouts at Clemson at wide receiver, and I can go back all the way to guys that I played with, like Perry Tuttle, and guys that we watched like Rod Gardner.
I think we may have just lost Billy Davis there for a moment. Hopefully he'll be back with us here in.
With me?
Yeah, there he is. There he is. He's back now.
I don't know where I lost you, but I'm talking about guys that left early or left to go, and they were can't-miss prospects, and they never really panned out in the NFL. So and then I look at guys like Cleveland Farrell and Austin Bryant and Christian Wilkins, who were projected to go anywhere from early in the first round to late in the second or early in the third round, and they could have gone this year, but I think they really realized how special of a place it is at Clemson, how special a relationship they all have with each other and the coaching staff. And a guy like Christian Wilkins, I've never met Christian Wilkins. I haven't had the opportunity to do that. I've watched him. I've been around him. I've seen him in practice, and I've watched him. He's a different cat. I mean, that dude's a different cat, and everybody says it. He's a born leader. He's very outgoing. He's extremely intelligent. He's got all those factors, and he'll do well in the NFL, but he dances to the beat of a little bit of a different drummer, and I think he just saw the opportunity of what could possibly happen in 2018 if he came back and Cleveland came back and Austin came back and Big Dexter's still there, not to mention all the other young men they have on the defense. It could be a really special year. And once you leave college, Dan, as you well know, you can't go back. Right. You can go back and get a degree, but you can't go back and play. I wish I could, and I played 4 years. I wish I would have gotten redshirted at Clemson. It never happened for me. I just got thrown into the fire, and the next thing I know, I was signed as a free agent with the Denver Broncos. So, I certainly wasn't a Ray McLeod or a Deion Kane, certainly not a Christian Wilkins or a Cleveland Farrell, but I had the opportunity. But, when you're 19, 20, 21 years old, I was surprised, I guess, but I wasn't totally shocked that they decided to come back, because I know the kind of environment they're in there and what a great time those guys have playing for, not only Dabo Swinney, but Brent Venables and the coaching staff. I mean, it's just a great group of guys they've got there, and the environment they sell there at Clemson. And I know a lot of folks around the state of South Carolina that wear garnet and black don't want to believe it. I've seen all the conspiracy theories and you name it, but the fact of the matter is, it is just a great environment, and it's a great place to go. And the NFL is going to be there, and the NFL is not like college football. I can attest to the fact that it becomes your job, and it's a business, and it's work. Where a place like Clemson, it's work, but it's a heck of a lot of fun to be the big man on campus. It really is. And once it's over, it's over, and you can go back, but you're never the BMOC like you are when you're playing and you're running down the hill. So good for those kids in an environment, in a world we live in now, where everybody, it's go, go, go. What's the next step? Got to have this, got to do that. It's that mentality. And these guys were like, well, hold on a second. Wait 1 minute. Give me another 12 months here to enjoy myself. I'm 20, 21 years old. And that's what they're doing. I applaud them for doing that, and they might be able to achieve something great again this year. I mean, it's a distinct possibility.
Yeah, and one of the reasons that I wanted to talk with you about this subject is because you have some personal experience in making choices about whether to come back to Clemson to play another year of baseball or to go to the NFL. We'll get to that in just a second, but I do want to point out one thing. You can look at most of those guys who decided to come back, and you're talking about, as you said, maybe second round, maybe third round, but the one guy you can quantify more than any of the others is Christian Wilkins, who was probably looking at a minimum of 5 years and $20 million from what I've read as far as a rookie contract goes. That's a lot of money on the table to walk away from to come back for his senior year of college.
Sure is. I'd like to have it. But like I said, he's a different cat. He doesn't think like a lot of people do. He got his degree in 2.5 years. My goodness. He'll work on his master's. He's the kind of guy that could, run for public office years down the road. He's whatever that it thing is, he's got it. So when the normal person, like I think I'm quasi-normal and I know you're normal, it's hard to put your head around the fact that somebody's walking away for that money to go back to college, isn't it? But like Coach Sweeney says, this guy's a different cat. You can see how he acts and what he does and how he really enjoys life and being around his teammates. That money will be there next year, and I can almost guarantee you that next year, if he has another great year, he'll come out and be a top 10 pick, and he'll be able to, he'll have generational money and be able to take care of his parents and his family up for generations. That's the neat thing about it.
Yeah.
But, like I said, it goes, I don't know. I've never sat down and talked with a young man, but he seems like an incredible young man. And he's not your typical, hey, I want to do my 3 years and get out and go make money. That's not what drives him, I don't believe. And that's probably what makes him special.
We're visiting with Billy Davis. We try to do it every week when his schedule allows. Sometimes there are gaps, of course, with traveling with the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association as he does now. But unique perspective on life as a former Secret Service agent, now retired, and a unique perspective on college athletics, having been a national champion with Clemson back in 1981. You, as I referenced a moment ago, you had a decision to make, and obviously we're not talking about the amount of money that was on the table, but you were in a even more unique position. I think you had exhausted your football eligibility, had played baseball your senior year of football, and had the opportunity to come back and play one more year of baseball at Clemson under Coach Bill Wilhelm, and at the same time the NFL was calling you to a certain degree. Just kind of walk us through that, what went into the decision, and as you told me and have told this story before on the show, it turned out probably to be the wrong decision at the time, but there are a lot of factors that went into play.
Yeah, Dan, it was. I got lured by the siren song of the National Football League because my senior year, the scouts were around. They come to practice every day, and they bump into you and they talk. And I was getting a lot of positive vibes from the NFL scouts. I was a big rangy safety. They cover a lot of ground, played cover two, return punts. They even fancied me possibly making a position switch, wide out. I mean, I heard all those things. And when you went to Clemson, the main reason I went there was to play football and secondarily to play baseball. And then I didn't play baseball for 3 years, and that's another story I won't get into, but I wasn't allowed to, and I eventually, football acquiesced and let me play, and I ended up starting first game of the year against the Citadel down in Charleston, so without playing organized baseball for 3 years. So I obviously had some talent. So, but I did. Coach Wilhelm, who I love dearly, long since passed away back in 2010. Miss him to this day. But he was one of those old school coaches that never really gave anybody a whole lot of advice one way or another. When I walked into the baseball offices, I'll never forget it. He and Turtle Thomas were in the office, and I said, "Hey, Coach, I got to talk to you." "Well, what is it?" I said, I'm not going to play baseball. It's just been a really tough decision, but I think I'm going to put my eggs in the football basket and pursue, the NFL. I'm getting a lot of positive vibes. I'm getting ready to go next week up to New York for a physical with the Jets. He looked at me and goes, "Billy," goes, "the football coaches say you run faster on the baseball field than you do the football field." I looked at him, I'm like, "Well, probably, because I'm not carrying a bunch of equipment." So, but anyway, I said, "Yeah, Coach." I said, "Yeah," but he never pulled me aside and said, "Hey, I know you're in love with this football dream, and that's why you're here at Clemson. But if you just come back and play this one season, I can guarantee you that you'll be drafted." Because fast forwarding years later, back in 1987, after I'd exhausted my NFL career, which is all of, a couple of games in 1 year. 1984, I got cut in 85, signed with USFL in 86. The league folded. I was back at Clemson to get my degree under the guidance and help of Bobby Robinson, who was the athletic director. Ran into Coach Wilhelm in Jervey Athletic Center, and he said, "Billy Davis, what the heck are you doing here?" And I said, "I'm back finishing school." He says, "You should be playing baseball on TV right now." I'm like, "Excuse me, Coach?" He says, "You're the best major league prospect I had in the last 10 years. Well, he never told me that when I was playing for him. And I never really sat down and just said, "Coach, what do you think?" My parents were great folks. They were kind of in over their head. And I was a pretty good kid. I never got in any trouble. So folks let me make my decision pretty much on my own without a whole lot of guidance other than me. And I tell people all the time that you're ever in a position, whether you're in the position of making decision or you're in the position of a leadership role, whether you're a coach or a teacher or a pastor, a mentor, a parent, and you see somebody that has a lot of talent that's in a quandary, take that extra 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, pull them aside and tell them, "Hey, this is just my take on it. I want you to realize I'm trying to help you because I know you're 19 or 20 or 21 or 25 and you think you're old and you think you know things, but you really don't." Pull them aside, and even if they're not really interested in hearing your point of view, give them your point of view because they can make a really critically bad mistake. And in my situation, I did. I went undrafted in 1984 and signed with the Denver Broncos out of school. Got cut by the Broncos and picked up by the then St. Louis Cardinals and finished out the season with them. But, who really knows what would have happened if I'd have come back to Clemson and played that spring of which would have been 1984 and let the chips fall where they may with baseball. Now, I may have been drafted and languished in the minor leagues like a lot of people, but I take Coach Wilhelm's word for when he told me that. So, and he had a lot of good guys that had, predated me that played for him, guys like Jimmy Key and Tim Tuffle and people like that. So I took that as a great compliment, although it was, the horse was already out of the barn. I feel like, Coach, wish you would have told me that when I walked into your office, 3 or 4 years ago. That would have been a nice piece of advice to get. So, that's what I tell people, and I've tried to use that in my leadership role. That I'll pull people aside and say, "Hey, you might want to think about this before you do that," because sometimes your passion for one thing can really override your ability in another, and that was certainly the case. What happened to me. So, and so I do believe these kids probably got a lot more help and guidance than I certainly ever received. It's a different support staff. And the coaching staff there, to be brutally honest, is head and shoulders above what we had back in the day as far as student athlete enrichment and development. And I'll be brutally honest with that too. It's much more. You have a head coach who's really all about the student athlete and making sure that they not only perform well on the field, but more importantly in the classroom. And he develops you as a whole person. And I think a lot of those kids see that, and then that's why you're having young men that have the opportunity to go to the NFL are coming back, and they still want to be a part of that because it is just a huge, huge ground for personal development. And a guy like Christian Wilkins, who's really impressive individual, I think he realizes that.
Yeah.
Now, that's just my take on it, whether you want to believe it or not, for folks that don't. But I've been up and down the street around the world many times, and I can see what they have there, and they've got something special going on. There's no doubt about that.
Well,
so.
we got to wrap it up here, but I will say this and get your quick response to this. One of the funniest things I've seen, and funny is in quotation marks. You talked about that other fan base. Actually, not just insinuating, but actually outright saying that the reason that Wilkins and these other guys are coming back to Clemson is because they're being paid to do so. And I thought to myself, okay, he's being paid to come back to Clemson instead of taking a $20 million NFL contract. What kind of logic is that?
The good Lord blessed us greatly with our rival. He gave us the best rival in the world. I mean, they're unbelievable with some of the stuff they come up. Yeah, exactly. Why would you turn down millions to come back? Even if you think whoever's paying these football players are paying them millions of dollars? It's ridiculous. I mean, it's just. But when that's all you have to come up with, I mean, not that bright, then that's all you can come up with. So anyway, yeah, I just shake my head and just with some of the stuff that they can come up with. It's just they're so hurt right now, and they can see what's coming, and it's not looking good. So I would just, if I was them, just like when Coach Spurrier was there, don't be so concerned with what Clemson's doing. Let's be concerned with what we're doing in our conference, and then. When that week comes, and he did a pretty good job of handling Clemson. But don't get all wrapped around the axle about your rival. Take care of your own business, for goodness sakes. Yeah, you know what I mean?
And then funny how that works out. He de-emphasized it and ended up having more success than anybody else in the history of the school.
Other than the week, I've told people, other than the week they played Clemson, I was always admired and enjoyed Coach Spurrier, whether he was at University of, when he was at Duke, or when he was at Florida, or he was up here with the Redskins. I mean, the guy's a winner. He just wins, and quirky and whatever. But he has an interesting way of looking at the world, and he's a very, very successful guy, obviously.
Well, Billy, listen, man, we appreciate the time as always. I know you're going to be off and running again here in the not too distant future, but we appreciate you allowing us to catch up with you whenever your schedule allows.
Hey, hopefully next week I'll be around if you want to talk. I got to go to Bangladesh on the 27th for we have a Samaritan's Purse hospital and a diphtheria clinic there in Bangladesh, so we're going to have to go over there and help those folks out.
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right, buddy.
All right, man. We'll talk to you next week. All right, that is Billy Davis. We need to step aside and take a quick break, and when we come back, Jay Sandos, the play-by-play voice of the ETSU Bucks, will be up with us to help us preview tonight's Furman ETSU matchup for the top spot in the Southern Conference. All that straight ahead right after this.
Hey, Furman fans, it's baseball season. Here at Ingalls, we know that as you root for the home team, sometimes you want more than just peanuts and Cracker Jack. And while we do deliver on your favorite ballpark classics, we're proud to offer a packed lineup of everything you need to make your next meal a home run. Ingalls, a proud sponsor of Furman Baseball and the official grocery store of Furman Athletics. Go Dins!
The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point offers a dining experience that will have you coming back for more time and time again. Everything is freshly made on site, including the different varieties of bread and all the baked goodies. And the menu, Atlanta Bread Company offers a wide variety from hot soups and chili to hot and cold sandwiches and paninis. Even breakfast selections topped off with your choice of piping hot coffees. Come see for yourself. You'll love it. The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point, proud sponsors of the Furman Paladins and the Dan Scott Show.
The madness begins here. Make sure you're at the U.S. Cellular Center in Asheville, North Carolina, March 1st through 5th for the 2018 SoCon Basketball Championships presented by General Shale. Watch your favorite SoCon teams compete for a championship and a berth in the NCAA tournament, and take part in exciting events like the Downtown Dribble and the Ingalls Jam Fest. Book your travel and tickets by logging on to SoConHoops.com or by contacting the U.S. Cellular Center box office. The madness begins in Asheville. Get your tickets today.
All right, 10:49, and we are back. Our thanks to Billy Davis for joining us in the last segment, and we transition right back to the celebrity guest line. The East Tennessee State Bucks are going to be at Timmons Arena tonight for a matchup for the top spot in the Southern Conference as we begin the second half of the first half of the SoCon season, trying to keep up with that math, if you will. And Jay Sandos, the very fine play-by-play voice for ETSU, joining us here on the program this morning. Jay, how you doing?
Doing good, Dan. Thanks for having me.
The teams are already here. The radio crew is going to brave the roads and try to get here today, right?
Yeah, we're going to leave here in about an hour and a half, go over the ever-popular Sam's Gap, and today, much better travel day than yesterday, so we should be good. But we're kind of excited. It's a doubleheader. We very rarely get a chance to see our women play with the West Southern Conference has them playing opposite sites and same days, and our women's team is off to a good start, so we think both the women and the men's games should be a good ball games down at Timmons Arena.
Yeah, women right now tied with Mercer, in fact, for the top spot in the Southern Conference, and the men standing alone in first place by a game over the Paladins. So this is going to be an intriguing matchup here tonight, focusing in on the men's game. And Jay, I think I speak for a lot of people who may be a little bit surprised at the early success that ETSU has had, not only in the conference but even non-conference heading up to this. It's been a fine season, and this comes after losing quite a bit of talent off of last year's club.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I tried to tell people was the simple fact that I know ETSU lost 4 or 5 starters, but Coach Forbes has proven he likes to play 10, 11, 12 guys. I mean, we have 10 guys averaging over 10 minutes this year. We had 10 guys averaging over 10 minutes a year ago. So even though some of those guys were backups last year, they were still seeing significant playing time, or at least some playing time. So, and honestly, at the end of last year, you could have named a starting 5, and the only guy that's not starting this year, Devontavius Payne, and the only reason he's not is because the Bucks got a 5th-year transfer, and Payne seems to be a guy that instant offense and kind of relishes that role coming off the bench. And so he's more comfortable coming off the bench. Otherwise, you would have saw 5 guys from last year's team that would have gotten significant playing time last year. The one thing I've learned with Coach Forbes is he is fine with turning over the roster and getting that, and because everybody plays and they know they're going to play, that he feels like he can get everybody energized in practice. The biggest thing is everybody understanding the new roles, and I think that took a couple of weeks. But after a couple of weeks, everybody understanding their new roles, they've really bought into what Coach Forbes wants to do, and certainly the proof's in the 18 winning streak and 12 of 13.
Well, a couple of familiar names are back from last year. DeSanta Bradford, who is a senior, and then you got a 6th year of eligibility for your 7-foot guy, Peter Jerkin, who's coming off a SoCon Player of the Week honor from last week. So there are some familiar names there, as you mentioned, and those 2 guys seem to be playing very well.
Yeah, I think the big thing was that they did a few tweaks defensively to kind of help funnel people to Peter to kind of keep him around the rim, and I think that's helped him as he's one of the better rim protectors between him and James Dickey of UNCG, probably the best 2 guys at shot blocking in the league. And then DeSante Bradford's been, kind of a Mr. Do-It-All. I think he's in the top 5 or 6 in the SoCon in 4 categories, in points, rebounds, assists, and steals. And he's a 4-year starter, basically, for ETSU. And so DeSante's kind of stepped into being the man, or at least given the title of being the man. I think he's relished that. And Peter, offensively, has always been a guy that could score the basketball. I think what's been a pleasant surprise is how he has turned into one of the better rim protectors.
Well, at 7 foot or thereabouts, you almost have to be by default.
Yeah, no, you certainly would hope you would be able to do that. But I think a lot of times Peter, and you know how it is, Dan, and a lot of them in major leagues, sometimes they don't play a traditional 5-man or traditional roles as you see at an NBA level or some of the major college basketball levels. You've got 4 or 5 guys, or if you play the Citadel, you got 5 guys that are going to run around outside the arc and shoot threes, and so it's a little bit different style, and that's really not a style of play that is conducive for Peter at 7 foot. And so for the Bucks to be able to kind of do some things with the guards and mix and match and be able to trade off to keep him around the rim has certainly helped him stay on the floor longer, and then obviously giving him an opportunity just to focus on swatting shots that come up his way.
So has his emergence and obviously getting more playing time than he did in previous years, has that caused a change in style of play at all for Steve Forbes?
I think a little bit. I think offensively they're still doing similar things to what they did a year ago. You know, with having Hunter Mosquera-Perea and Kevin Glass, both those guys could score on the inside, and then, you know, Kevin Glass could hit 15, 16-foot jumpers. Well, Peter Jerkins hit a couple threes this year. He's got outstanding range, but I think the offense is very similar from really the last 2 years that Coach Forbes has had. They haven't done too much there. They've got a pretty good formula they think works, and generally they try to, like most teams, they try to go inside out, and they certainly, if they get some mismatches, they try to take advantage of that as far as in the post. And, you know, they're not particularly a great three-point shooting team, but they do a good job of going to the rim and getting to the line and kind of making up for that and getting some free points. So I think this maybe is not one of his better three-point shooting teams. That's not to say they can't hit, you know, 8 or 10 threes a night. The problem is they don't have one or two guys that can do that. You know, they don't have a Fletcher McGee or Rayon Hollins in the league that can get you 5 or 6 threes on a night. You know, they may have 10 threes with 7 guys hitting 1 or 2 threes apiece to get to that point. So I think that's maybe the only difference offensively. But defensively, man, they're really locked in right now. There's really a good buy-in. There's a max effort. You know, they really sell out a lot. This is not a particularly big team. They lost a 6'8" guy who was expected to start this year in Jerome Rodriguez, and so he'll have 2 more years of eligibility next year. They also lost a 6'10" kid in Carl Overstreet who was with the Bucks in the last year with Murray Bartow, and the first year with Steve Forbes, then took a year or two off and decided he missed basketball. And so, you know, they said, well, we get a 6'10" guy back. It's going to help. And he's out for the year. So they lost a 6'8" and 6'10" guy. And, you know, we're like a lot of them in majors. You know, we just don't have a lot of those sitting on the end of the bench. So we're playing a lot of guys out of position. You know, there's a lot of times we'll have David Burrell, who's about 6'4.5", 6'5", as a 5-man. And then we'll have Bo Hodges, who's a freshman, about 6'3", play the 4. And so, but to do that, that means everybody's got to commit defensively and everybody's got to go to the glass to rebound. And so far this season, they've been doing that.
Visiting with Jay Sandos, the play-by-play voice of the East Tennessee State Buccaneers, who will be at Timmons Arena tonight. 7:30 now the starting time for the men's game because of the doubleheader with the women's cancellation yesterday being moved to 5 p.m. this afternoon. Jay, these two teams had a couple of great battles last year, and in fact, the game at the end of the regular season in Johnson City last year was one of the better college basketball games that I've ever been involved in. John Davis III hitting the shot that sent it to overtime, and the Bucks finally prevailing in the extra 5 minutes. But there's enough veteran presence on both of these teams where they're not really strangers to one another. What's the Buck camp saying about this year's edition of the Paladins?
Well, if you go back and look at the numbers, Devin Sibley, and he loves playing the Bucks now. Of course, he likes playing a lot of teams, but he's averaging over 19 points a game against ETSU. I think it's 9 career games he's played so far, so he's got a pretty good sample size. The big thing is trying to keep him off the line. He's averaging almost, I think it's right at 7 free throws made per game, and those as well, attempting almost 10, 11 attempts per contest. And so that's something they've got to try to do without. The other thing is they've had bad starts down in Timmons Arena the last couple of years. Well, really the last 3 years since the Bucks been in the league, even going back to Coach Bartow. But Coach Forbes, Furman's really jumped out on ETSU and kind of taken the winds out of the sails, and the Bucks have had to go into panic mode early and try to, come from behind. Last year really didn't get that close. 2 years ago they got to within I think it was a Geelong Gwynn shot on the baseline, chance to tie it, and he missed it. So I think they need to get off to a good start. Certainly Devin Sibley's one. I think having Matt Rafferty back, he could be a double-double machine on any night. And I think what he can do, because, again, he can shoot the ball well. He can step outside, too, and shoot the outside jumper. And I think that's going to be tough for ETSU to defend as well. So I'll be curious to see how they defend Matt Rafferty. I think, again, trying to get Sibley off the line. And I think a guy that has killed the Bucks last couple of times they played that maybe doesn't get as much recognition as he should is Daniel Fowler. I love Daniel Fowler's game. I think he can do a lot defensively. I think he can rebound. He can go to the rim. He can shoot threes. And I think because of, playing with Sibley and Kroom from a couple years ago, I think maybe he gets lost in the mix. But I think Daniel Fowler can be an X factor if the Bucks aren't careful. He could come out and have a big night and hurt the Bucks.
It's going to be intriguing to watch this matchup this evening. Going to be a great atmosphere, good basketball, as I mentioned, battle for the top spot of the league. Before we let you go, What's been your assessment of this league so far? There seems to be a pretty significant line of demarcation between the teams that are really good and the teams that are not so good. I personally don't think the league is as deep this year as maybe it has been the last couple of years. But, boy, those top 5 or 6 are pretty good.
Yeah, I think the bottom 4 teams are exactly that, and that's just putting it as nice as I can. I think there are, Mercer's slow start was shocking, but then they came out like a 30-point win against Sanford. So we'll see how the Mercer Bears come along, because in one poll they were picked first, the other one they're picked sixth. I don't think it is deep as it was last year, maybe even the year before that, which is shocking, because I would have thought this year might have been more balanced than previous years. So I'm a little shocked by that, but I certainly think the top 4 or 5 teams, anytime somebody goes on the road at their place, it's like tonight at Furman. I think it'll be a dogfight like you guys, last game out against Wofford. I think certainly going to those places, going to UNCG, Sanford and Mercer are still no gimmies when you go to their place either. So, and certainly Johnson City's a tough spot. So I think winning on the road, if you're going to be the league champion, will be imperative to pick a couple of those off and, of course, defending your home turf. But I would agree with you. I don't think it is as deep as it has been, but I still think the top 3 or 4 teams for sure could go in any league and compete.
Well, listen, Jay, we appreciate the time this morning. You guys have safe travels down here today when you get on the road here in the next hour or so. We will see you at Timmons Arena tonight.
All right, Dan, thanks for the time, buddy. I'll see you tonight.
All right, that is Jay Sandos, the very fine play-by-play voice of the ETSU Buccaneers. And with that, that is going to put a wrap on things for us here this morning. Thank you for your attention. All goes according to plan. We will be back in studio tomorrow, and Brett Harker will join us live in studio to preview the upcoming 2018 Furman baseball season. And, of course, we'll be recapping what transpires at Timmons Arena this evening. Until then, thanks again to Billy Davis, thanks to Jay Sandos, and most of all, thank you for tuning in. I'm Dan Scott saying God bless you, and so long, everybody.